All right, we are live on You Get It, episode number 3. You Get It being unabashedly giving all the time. And with me today, I have a guest from Aussie land, Derick Mildred. Welcome to the show, Derick.
Thank you kindly. It's a pleasure to be here, Ashwin, and looking forward to today's show.
Likewise. So, first off, big shout out to one of my first guest on You Get It, Kelly Phelan, who's the reason you're on the show because I put her on the spot at the end and I said, hey, how would what do you feel when you encounter You Get It? And without mentioning you by name, she talked about how she had connected with you. And the thing that jumped out, and again we jump into your background just a little bit, right? But Derek, the thing that caught my attention was she said at the end of it, he never asked me for anything. There was no sales pitch, no nothing, right? And it seems in this digital only world, that's the like people wait for that, right, or anticipate that. Hey, what's that ask going to be? And if there's no ask, they feel like, wow. And then she gave you a recommendation on LinkedIn. Okay, so enough said. Derek, why don't you intro yourself and we'll dive right in?
Beg your pardon?
Why don't you introduce yourself and we can dive right in?
Right. Yep. Okay. Well, Derick Mildred is my name, as the audience obviously can see. I'm a social media coach specializing in LinkedIn and Facebook, and I do a lot of stuff with LinkedIn. I've got some courses coming out. I do coaching, training as well, and the LinkedIn platform I describe as being the world's largest database of businesses, their owners, and their employees. It's also a tool that you can use to connect with the right people and to start a conversation so that you can establish, build, and nurture those relationships. So basically, I just show people how it works and what it can do.
Awesome. And then I know you're one of the big influencers over there. And let's start with something that you and I chatted about, which is still resident in my head, which is the whole concept about giving without expecting anything in return. And you mentioned something that you and I literally kind of thought of that word at the same time. Again, me being Indian and Hindu, and karma is something that I learned karma right along the way. But then you mentioned the same word. So talk a little bit about what that means to you and how that gives you the moral compass to do what you're doing.
Well, I'm 57 years old, and many years ago in business, before online was even about, okay, so look, if you think back in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, a lot of the mentors we had back then, or that we grew up with back then, occasionally you would hear somebody who is extremely successful in business, somebody who is wealthy, had all the trappings of success, etc. Some of them would be described as ruthless in business. And it took me a year to figure out that I actually have an issue with that, okay? And there's just so many areas about that to me just sound wrong, okay? I firmly believe that people can be successful in business, successful in life without treating other people badly and without being ruthless. I just think it's not necessary and it's uncalled for, and it's not a good way to move forward, in my opinion. Okay. And so I've always been brought up with you treat people the way that you would like to be treated, okay, respectfully. And I think that's a very solid, a very sound principle, motto to live by. And I think it just basically, when it becomes part of you, when it's authentic, when it's genuine, when that's actually the person that you are, it just helps you out in so many different ways, in different parts of your life, in your friendships, your relationships, your business relationships, how you go about things, the things that you do, how you talk to people, etc. And these days, with social media especially, becoming ever so more growing, more powerful, more influential, the platforms that they have become, people are getting very fed up, very sick and tired of the sales pitch, okay? And we all know how we react when we get a sales pitch inside the inbox, okay? Most of us cannot run fast enough. We look at it and think, no, not another one. And we certainly don't want to jump on the phone to them straight away, okay? And that's putting it nicely. So the way that it was once described to me is I was talking to somebody, having a great conversation, somebody whose opinions and knowledge I respect and admire greatly. And he turned around to me and he said, add value.
Mm.
Okay, we were talking about content especially, and he said add value is the best content that you can share, content that adds value. And so I took that a step further and I said, okay, content that adds value without selling. Okay, and what has literally happened to me in my experience, pardon me, in less than 12 months, my audience has doubled, quite literally. And not so much the size of the audience, but people's perception of me within that audience. And so you're literally building a brand, you're building your own reputation, you're building your own following. And there's a saying, and that is, your brand is what other people say about you.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, it's really true. And so if you go out there and you build your brand, if you build your following based on being able to genuinely help, being able to generally offer some added value without selling, then what literally happens is that firmly establishes people's belief in you, and especially the know, like, and trust factor, because that's literally what you've helped them to believe in you by what you've done and what you've established by helping them. And so when we were talking about this the other day, to sum it up very succinctly, very shortly, it's karma. Okay, you help people, people will help you. It's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. Okay, and what's more, it's one of the beautiful things on the planet.
No, well said. And I just want to call out Kirk. Kirk, thanks for your comments, and he's definitely enjoying your comments over here. So one of the things that I know you talked about being ruthless, right? But in business school, in any kind of business, right, the concept of ROI, return on investment, is drilled into you, right? So every dollar that you spend, are you getting $1.50 back? Are you getting $2 back, right? And in the digital universe, it's like, hey, every post, every webinar, I mean, you name it, right? And here we are talking about something which is quite not what's taught, but yet it's very effective, as you've proven yourself, and lots of others have as well. But it's I wouldn't call it anti-business, but it is value first without selling, as you put it, right? And so how does somebody kind of get over that mental hurdle of having been taught, he or she has been taught ROI all the time, and now in this world, talking to you, listening to you as one of the foremost LinkedIn followers. And I mean, I follow your posts, I follow your Wednesday quotations, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But how does somebody get over that the way they've been mentally trained?
Look, the bottom line is we all need an income of some kind to pay for our and support our cost of living. Okay,
Yep.
Pay our bills, put the roof over our head, the food that we buy, etc., and then all the luxuries on top of that, whatever they may be. So this ROI from the business schools, understandably, from years gone by, has been drilled into us. Okay, what's the ROI? What's the profit margin? What's the how much was made in profits last financial year? That kind of thing. And a month or so ago, I was actually thinking about this. And I completely understand. Okay, we all want to make money. That's fine. That's okay. But I thought to myself, okay, what is wealth? Okay, is wealth numbers in a bank account, or is there a lot more to it than that? If we think back to the days of ROI, it's numbers in the accounts. But when I think about it these days, I think to myself, well, okay, we've got so many other different issues out there that are highly important. Environmental issues, for example, social issues, for example, looking after and helping people who might need a helping hand, for example. There are so many different areas that come into our lives. Maybe those areas should also be included as part of wealth. Okay, so in other words, okay, you might have the numbers in your bank account, but what are you doing for the environment?
Yeah.
Okay, you might have the numbers in your bank account. What are you doing for social issues? What are you doing for charities or good causes that need some support? And But for people who genuinely go out there to help others, you might be wealthy, but are you supporting those good causes as well? So there's all these other areas that come into ROI, as far as I'm concerned.
No, it's a phenomenal point, because one of the other things that I do during my work job is I host amazing people on the diversity dialogue, right? And one of the things that I have seen is there is now a business angle to diversity, which means if you are a vendor and I'm selecting vendors, unless you're able to prove to me that you're actually walking the DEI path, I will not even do business with you. So I mean, in some sense, I mean, like you're saying, I mean, these various other, the environmental aspect, societal aspect, diversity aspect, there are these other agencies that are being put to test, and you just can't be fixated on the ROI. So one of the other things, and again, this is something going back to the giving aspect of it, right? And call it the imposter syndrome, call it, hey, what do I have to give? And you and I talked about this, right? So everybody has something that they can give back, right? So again, waiting for that finish line and saying, hey, when I have X amount of wealth, or when I have X amount of people working for me, I mean, pick your own barometer, right? And that's when I start giving back. Again, turning that theory upside down on its head. What advice do you have for people who are not comfortable about whether they have anything worthy of giving back?
Anybody can help anybody else. Anybody. Seriously, you can go down to the supermarket. There might be a homeless person who's sitting outside the supermarket because he's starving. That's why he's sitting there. Give him $10. Give him a bag of groceries. Give him anything. Help him. Okay? Anybody can help others with anything. It doesn't matter how much money's in your bank account or how wealthy you are. If you sit down next to somebody and just give them 5 minutes of your time to hear their story. Anybody, and you might change somebody's day by doing that. A little bit of kindness can go a hell of a long way. A little bit of appreciation or a little bit of understanding can also go a long, long way. So yeah, anybody can help anybody.
And again, I mean, you again, going back to how you and I connected, going back to Kelly, you connected with her. You didn't ask for anything. You gave her your time. You said, what can I help?" And here she is, giving you. Hey, we have another old friend, Charles. Hey, welcome, Charles, Hong Kong. We already have like 3 time zones covered. If I
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's so again, coming back to the aspect of time, right? And it's the only non-replenishable commodity, right? So again, until somebody comes into this karma first mode, how do they build consistency? I mean, I'm looking at your Wednesday post, right? I'm going to call 2 out, right? One was from yesterday. Sometimes when we are generous in small, barely detectable ways, it can change someone's life forever. And he gave a perfect example of the supermarket. And the other one was unexpected kindness is the most powerful, least costly, and most underrated agent of human change. Right? Just 2 quotes. And when I read those, suddenly I felt a sense of joy. Right? That's the closest I can come to it. Right? But the question is again coming back to, I mean, you built this consistency. What tools, tips do you have for folks who like I said, hey, are working 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day, and are trying to make a living, and yet how and when do they find the time to do what we talk about over here, which is build the karma bank?
Okay, number one, with regards to time, time is our most valuable commodity. And the reason that it's our most valuable commodity is we can never get it back. Okay, so wasted time, you can't get a refund on it. You can't get it back. And as we've all experienced, time flies or travels fast. Okay, we've all had the situation where we've met somebody, we've bumped into somebody, we haven't seen them for 5 years. And we immediately we're thinking to ourselves, what happened in that 5 years? Where did that 5 years ago? Okay, we've all had those kind of experiences. So don't waste time. Okay, it's very easy to get distracted these days. And these days with the speed of our computers, especially, where we can have half a dozen windows open on half a dozen different channels. And that's YouTube alone. So, yeah, it's very, very easy to get distracted. So try not to waste time. Number two, think about what you could actually do to help somebody. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to spend a day or a week or a month with them. Just a supportive word, a supportive comment, that supportive email or that phone call, or that text message, just a nice message of support, that can really change somebody's day. Especially if that one person might be struggling with what they're going through at the time, or they might need a little bit of help with something. Just a little bit of support, and you can really change somebody's day. In some cases, you might even change their life. I actually have a mentor to me who is a very successful business person. He's extremely busy. We talk probably every couple of months, okay? And because I respect his life and his work and everything that he does. This is somebody who's a very successful entrepreneur. In times prior to COVID, he would be on several planes a week, okay, traveling all over the world. And so I do respect his time. And so whenever I get on the phone to him, I am listening intently, and I'm even writing down notes. And some of the things that I have learned from him, I will cherish for the rest of my life. So yeah, if you can help somebody in any way, just a little message of support, or give them a little bit of a piece of information that we know is going to help them, then yeah, just do it. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much time.
Well said. And I just want to call out Kelly.
Hey, Kelly.
Well, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for making the connection. You're awesome, right? And we're learning a ton too. Again, all thanks to you.
Thank you.
So one of the things that you talked about, right, which is I've encountered this myself, is especially in these days and times, right, where we're predisposed to judgment, which means even if I'm helping somebody, send them a text or a video message or something, and they do not respond, we can't assume what's going on in their life, right? No. So that first part of the you, which is unabashedly, which is you need to continue giving without expecting anything in return. Whether it's so, how does, again, any tips, tricks to get to that point of unabashedness?
I learned a valuable lesson about 20 odd years ago.
Okay.
It was literally one point: don't ever judge, because 99% of the time you're going to be wrong. Okay, we don't know what's going on in that other person's life. We don't know why they're delayed, why they haven't got back to you, what the cause of that delay might be. Okay, it could be something tragic. It could be something with a completely logical, legitimate reason for it. Okay, so don't ever judge, especially also because whenever you judge, it's usually an emotional response. And we're taught to try and keep emotions out of business, because anytime when the emotions get involved, that too is usually wrong. So yeah, don't ever judge, because it's usually wrong. Just give it time, be patient.
Yeah, and I think that aspect of giving it time and being patient, again, goes back to the ROI piece, right? There is no return. Yeah, you're making an investment in time and getting to somebody, but he or she may choose to respond, may not choose to respond. But I think to your point, I think it always touches somebody's life, whether you realize it or not, right? I think that's the aspect that I've learned.
With the ROI and being patient, the ROI is figures in a bank account. Okay, return on investment is what it stands for. But that return on investment has got to come from somebody who's going to buy your products, your services, do business with you. Okay. Now, if you have not built up a reputation, if you have not built a relationship with them, if you have not established that know, like, and trust factor, their belief in you, then guess what? They're not going to buy your product or services.
True. So actually, you touched upon the last piece, which is the consistency, right? And you mentioned brand. You mentioned, hey, their choice of buying or not buying from you, and it comes down to having a blueprint of what is it that you have to be doing consistently, right? And some days you might see some results, other days might be like radio silent. So again, I mean, how have you built that modicum of? Is it based on day of week? Is it I mean, how, like, what does Derick do to continue doing what you're doing?
I'm going to give you a inside secret here.
Okay, let me record. Oh, actually, it is being recorded.
Okay. When I say consistency, what I mean by consistency is consistently put yourself out there, regardless of how or what that might be. Okay. Right now, my things to do list, nobody knows what's on it, but I can tell you it's a mile long. Okay. And so right now, putting myself out there, I'll do the occasional interview or podcast, etc., like this. But what I do consistently is I put posts up every day. Okay. So that's myself putting myself out there, or just building and getting myself known. Okay. The audience doesn't know how busy I am behind my scenes, or behind these scenes, trying to work through my things to do list. They don't know everything else that I'm working on at the time. Whereas if I looked at it the other way, if I focused on working through my things to do list and then started to put myself out there, then that's almost a backwards approach, because you're working towards your goal of getting everything ready, or whatever it is that you want to do, and then you want to start putting yourself out there. You're going to put yourself out there first and just do it consistently. Whether or not it's one post or whatever it might be, it's entirely up to you, but just start to put yourself out there and do that consistently. Eventually you'll get through your things to do list, and people will know who you are, what you're about. You will have started to establish that know, like, and trust factor. And the interesting thing about today is we're in the information age, and so much now is online, and we've got these amazing tools called social media, where you can build your own brand. Your social media platforms can be your own television station, if you will. Okay, where you can build your own brand, you can put your own message out there, and you can start to build your own following, and that's quite exciting.
Great. And one final question for you. And you mentioned your amazing mentor. Somebody's starting anew, right? Where and how do you advise them to either go looking for mentors or join a community? How do they get that safe circle, if you will, where they get feedback and they can improve constantly?
Okay, let me put it to you this way. Pardon me. If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find another room.
Yeah.
Okay. So your circle of influence, the people that you surround you with, are what are going to define who and the person that you become. Okay. So ultimately, you want to be associating, spending time learning from people who are experienced, who are knowledgeable, who know a little bit more about where you want to get to, what you want to accomplish, what you want to do. Okay. So number one, try to find a mentor, and importantly, think about what you would ask them before you ask them. Even days or weeks before. Think to yourself, okay, if I met my ultimate mentor, what would be the questions that I would ask him? If I met a billionaire, for example, what would the questions I would ask a billionaire? Okay. So think about that. What questions would you ask? Number two, here's the beautiful thing about LinkedIn, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate, why I love this platform, is LinkedIn has its own community who are very willing to help. If you put up a question on LinkedIn, you will be astonished at the answers that you get and the support that you get. And going back to consistency, the more consistent you are with your interaction with others, as well as putting up your own content, you will start to build a community of like-minded people around you. And that's the amazing thing about the people of LinkedIn. It's a very authentic, it's a very genuine community, and you can build some amazing friendships in your own countries, but also internationally, and friendships that will last you for a long time, in many cases for the rest of your life.
Well said. No, I couldn't agree more. I think it's a fantastic platform. Like you said, I think that aspect of making sure that you're never the smartest person in the room, I think always allows room for growth. So again, Derick, thanks for doing this, and thanks for everything that you do. And I keep looking for your posts and those inspirations. Others who are watching this live or after the fact, please follow Derick, and you'll know why once you do. Thank you, Derick.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you kindly.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.